The Cavaliers are 6-0 for just the third time in franchise history after a 120-109 win over the Orlando Magic on Friday at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. It's the postgame show coming up next here on Cavs on SI. How we doing, everyone? It's a good time to be a basketball fan in Northeast Ohio, isn't it? The Cavaliers a winner again on Friday night, moving that record to 6-0 after a win and a rematch of that first-round playoff series against the Orlando Magic. The Cavs not needing 7 games to take care of business tonight. They're taking care of things at just 1 tonight. Another big win, another big performance. The offense, again, on full display. Spencer Davies live on site for us tonight. Spence, got a lot to talk about, a lot to like as we've seen so far this season. Boy, it seems like every time that the Cavs take the floor, I'm kind of waiting for them to come back down to earth. Another 100-point-plus performance tonight. You have to love what you're seeing so far from this team under Kenny Atkinson.
Most definitely, and they've just kind of stuck to their guns. They're sticking to their identity, even when things aren't going correctly. They've always had a counterpunch for whenever they get knocked down. They always get back up, and you saw that in the Lakers game the other night. You saw it tonight. The Magic tried to muck things up a little bit in that third quarter. There were a lot of fouls called. It just was kind of not going their way. But as Donovan Mitchell said, it's great to see them stick to what they know, stick to their principles, and continue to play through that and be themselves. And themselves, what is that right now? Transition basketball, forcing turnovers, and getting out in the open floor and shooting.
And the Magic without Paolo Banchero tonight, dealing with an oblique injury. That news dropped last night, right after we wrapped up the podcast, coincidentally enough. But Banchero out tonight, so they were the Magic shorthanded against the Cavaliers. But they still got a pretty good punch as we take a look at the box score from this evening. 28 points from Jalen Suggs. Franz Wagner with 17. On the flip side for your wine and gold, 25 from Darius Garland, another 22 from Donovan Mitchell. The Cavs are just shooting the lights out so far. I believe they were just under 40% from three-point land tonight, and their shooting percentage from deep actually fallen, Spence, after that performance tonight.
Yeah, it was a regression to the mean, I guess you could call it that, right? But hey, they're at least taking them. They're not shying away from shooting them. And they're doing them early in the shot clock. And I think a big part of this is they're collapsing. They're making defenses collapse on into the paint, and then they're able to kick it out from there. But a lot of these are transition threes, looking up. The initial outlet pass is something I need to really make a big point on, is how the guys are getting to their spots. And when they get to their spots, you don't have to dribble. You can move it with the pass. And that right there, it makes it so difficult to stop, because then teams are forced to make decisions. They're forced to get out onto you and close out harder than they want to, or they're forced to even guard their man that's not even their man. They have to switch. They have to do all these other things. So when you pass the ball the way they do, and the guys know their spots, there's less kind of a junk kind of feel to it. It's more precise and easy to move the ball with the pass instead of doing it with the dribble. And then when they are doing it with the dribble, it's been mostly with Evan Mobley and guys playing off ball with him. So a lot of good tonight again in that department. But the third quarter, I think, was the big difference. Like Donovan Mitchell said, sticking to what they know, sticking to their principles, playing through the Magic, trying to really muck things up. They got it down to 11, and then they didn't get closer than that.
You touched on that third quarter. How critical was that for them to be able to push that lead out without Darius, without Donovan? Those are obviously two contributors, and they're going to be, seeing a lot of big minutes and playing a big role. But for them to be able to be on the bench and for them to not have to worry about that lead shrinking. In fact, the Cavs able to balloon that lead out to, I think it was 17 points, as you mentioned. That showed a lot of growth for a lot of guys on this roster, I feel like.
Yeah, and guess who was leading the charge? It was Caris LeVert, probably the team's MVP through the 6 games. I am willing to go that far, because the bench has played such a pivotal role. The way that they're kind of getting this minute allocation, the way they've played guys all around 20 to 25 minutes off the bench, finding different combinations and ways to make these guys effective with one another, and being so versatile to be able to play with whoever is on this roster. Caris has been phenomenal. He had 6 assists in 1 quarter last game. Tonight, he finishes with 7 dimes, but he's just been so efficient. And Kenny Atkinson mentioned that in his press conference after the game, was just, that's a conversation he had with him in Brooklyn, was trying to find a way to make him more efficient. And so far, so good here in Cleveland with the two back together again. And Caris is just playing kind of just with this free will right now, where he's got a nice 3-point looking shot. He's drawing attention, and he's also making the right next play and getting his teammates involved. This is a guy that's been here now for 2.5 years, and he's looking very comfortable right now.
Yeah, we haven't really talked a whole lot about Caris LeVert, right? Obviously, Donovan gets a lot of attention. Darius Garland gets a lot of attention. We've talked until our faces are blue about Evan Mobley and his role, but Caris LeVert, kind of like an unsung hero. I feel like maybe his personality involves some of that too, because he's such a quiet guy. You and I think, talked about that on the podcast. Kind of quiet, unassuming, but his play is really speaking for itself, and he really seems like he's settled into that role coming off the bench here so far for this group.
And defending too. That, let's not forget about that. The way that he's able to kind of use his length and disrupt things, it instills confidence in other guys, and it just kind of juices them up, to be honest. Like, he's a huge piece off the bench. He started off like this last year too. Remember, we were having the conversation. Caris for 6th man was a real thing, and then he obviously got hurt, and then the wear and tear happened and all that. If he can sustain this, and with this minute load, the way that Kenny's using him, I think this is a perfect kind of middle for him to find a way to contribute to this team in the long run here this season. And, we have to give a lot of credit to Isaac Okoro. Led the team with 9 points in the 4th quarter. I know the game was kind of out of hand at that point, but Kenny really mentioned the way he drove to the rim. He knocked down multiple threes today. He had 2 threes, and it was his first multi-triple effort of the season so far. So it was good to see him get into a rhythm. George Niang, I keep coming back to it, man. He's been so good. He's been so good defending drives that he's not getting credit for steals that guys are getting because he's making them happen. Like, those are the things that I want fans to look out for. He cut some guy off. I can't remember who it was in the middle of the paint, and then they threw an errant pass, and then it basically went into a pick 6 for the Cavs. Like, those are the moments. Those are the things that you have to look out for. He did it in New York on last Monday. The way that he kind of got in there, stuck his nose in there, got an extra possession for him. George has been great this year. Sam Merrill hit a couple of threes tonight, but Kenny highlighted his defense, the way he's guarding the ball, and obviously they're using him more in screens towards the middle, and really using his gravity to make guys kind of get in there on actions, because Sam usually draws like the quote-unquote worst defender of the other team. So creating a switch that way to put him on one of Darius or Donovan is also helpful. So those guys off the bench, man, and we don't even mention Ty Jerome, who quiet 9 and 6 rebounds. Like, that guy has been steady Eddie for them all year long so far. And I know all year long is only a week and a half, but it's something that they didn't have last year. They didn't have a 6'5" guard last year to hold the fort down, so to speak. And quick shout out as well to Luke Travers. He played 4 minutes, but they were some of the 4 active most minutes that we've seen all year. So congratulations to him for his effort tonight, and he really opened some eyes.
He got his first points in the NBA, I believe, too, right?
Sure thing. Yep, absolutely.
So a big night for him. You touched on something that I wanted to ask you about as well, minute load. I don't want to say load management, because I know that can kind of be a sensitive topic for people when you're talking about NBA basketball. But with how Kenny is managing these minutes so far in the season, how critical is that going to be towards saving your legs throughout 82 games? Because in years past, we've seen Donovan put up some exorbitant minutes totals, right? And we know that can maybe we know that can maybe have a negative effect down the stretch. You want these team guys to be as fresh as long as they can. What do you like? How do you like how Kenny has managed these minutes, and how can that be beneficial for them maybe down the stretch?
Well, what's crazy is tonight it kind of might have been foul trouble. Like, I don't think he was planning on playing Darius Garland 28 minutes and Donovan 22 minutes, but it has been more towards the 33, 34 mark for them. And that's critical, because if you shave off from his previous averages, were I think somewhere around 36, 37. If you take that down to 32, 33 minutes a game, do the math. You cut out 4 minutes times 82 or whatever like that. That's however many minutes you save total going towards the postseason. It's big, man. It's big because you're not going to have the wear and tear injuries. You're not going to see Donovan playing 44 minutes on the second night of a back-to-back. You're not going to see Donovan playing 46 minutes in an overtime game. It's just not going to happen with Kenny because Kenny's very reliant on his bench. He's reliant on this depth that he wants to celebrate, and he knows a lot of guys can bring to the table. And this is kind of a great segue too, because Darius Garland, he's been terrific the last 3-4 games, and he was in attack mode tonight, man. Like I know that Darius has done this in the past, but I even asked him, I'm like, man, you were amongst the trees today. You were in there drawing fouls. He went 6 for 6 from the free throw line. He took the 9 threes, and he was aggressive in that respect, but he was going at guys. He was going at Jalen Suggs. He was going at Anthony Black. He was going at the Wagners. Like, it didn't matter who was in the paint. He was getting in there and getting roughhousing. So he had that going for him defensively. He blocked another shot. So he's getting these swats in the box score as well. But defensively, really taking the challenge too. He was getting all up into Jalen Suggs on the defensive end, and they have a great relationship. He was talking about that after the game, how there's no bad blood there. There's no rivalry. But obviously after the playoffs last year, you're going to have that competitive edge.
Sure.
But I think DG was fantastic tonight, even with the 5 fouls.
You couldn't get up a 10th one there, though?
That's what Kenny said. Kenny goes, we're trying to get him up. We're trying to get him up. But he's really done a great job the last few games of just really knowing how he can get involved in the game, but also, kind of making sure his teammates are thriving.
I think it's also critical, too, and you touched on him being amongst the trees. I think it's critical for him to continue to show that aggressiveness because of all the facial injuries that he's dealt with over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. He had the eye injury a couple of years ago, had the broken jaw. It's nice to see that doesn't seem like that is inhibiting him in his aggressiveness at all. He's not afraid to go into the dirty areas, the gritty areas, down in the paint, and it's nice to see him in that attack mode. Darius shooting the ball very well, as just about everybody on this Cavaliers team. Jarrett Allen missing 2 shots on Wednesday night, causing his shooting percentage to actually drop. Tonight, just 1 for 3 from the field, though. The Magic doing a little bit to intentionally limit Jarrett tonight.
Yes, absolutely. And Kenny just kind of pointed at it. He was being denied the lobs. He was being denied any kind of pocket passes. You got to give credit to, Mo Wagner and Franz Wagner getting in there, defending that. Jonathan Isaac's a big part of that. But that's okay, because if you take one thing away, that means it opens up something else for somebody else, right? Like, so that's where the Cavs are so dangerous, is they can make you pay even if their guy that has been the most efficient player on the team so far only puts up 3 shots. Jarrett still grabbed 11 boards. He was a plus 12, which was second highest on the team, despite only scoring 2 points. Like, that's what's crazy about this game, about basketball, how, teammates can kind of pick you up in that sense on the scoring end. And, Evan Mobley was fantastic. He had a great start to the first quarter. Again, he just kind of is blossoming in ways that we haven't seen before. He hit a floater off the top of the glass contested at the end of the shot clock that I was like, where did he get that from? He had a pick and pop 3 that he got from Ty Jerome in the first quarter. So the growth is so evident with that guy. Like they're all kind of growing together as one, which is so good for them. Like, it's so telling to me that they're getting more mature, because maybe the old Cavs, like I don't want to do this, at the beginning of November, but maybe the old Cavs see the Magic chipping away at that run. They get them down to 11, and then they just start reverting to old habits, to dribble, to turning the ball over, which they did. They did turn the ball over quite a bit in the third quarter, but they stuck to what they knew. They got the threes up. They still defended. They were still in there just fighting for every possession, even when things didn't go their way. And that right there is a sign to me of a team that's growing up.
Yeah. And I mean, they're checking all the boxes along the way, right? And passing all these tests. Tommy and I talked about this last night. Like, each time that you think that they might run into an obstacle, they had the potential for the emotional letdown against LeBron, right? With all the distractions around that. And they handled business. They weren't good on back-to-backs last year. They won both of their games last weekend in that back-to-back situation. We've got another one coming up that we'll talk about here shortly. They had struggled at times in the third quarter. Tonight, they extend that lead in the third quarter with Darius and Donovan on the bench. It seems like every time that they are put in these situations where they have, for lack of a better term, off the top of my head, failed in the past, they're excelling in those situations. And you're right, we are seeing that growth right in front of our eyes, it seems like.
Yeah, and we've addressed the entire team except for Dean Wade and Tristan Thompson. Well, I mean, Jalen Tyson was a scratch with a hip injury, but the whole that we're all talking about. Everyone's playing a role in some sort of way, which is exactly what Kenny Atkinson's been looking for, which is exactly what this organization's been looking for, is put our guys in the best positions to be successful, and that's what they've done in the first 6 games.
There's been an emphasis on putting Evan Mobley in the position to be successful this season. We've talked about it a lot early on. They touched on it on the broadcast on ESPN as well, because there's been so much talk, and we've talked about it, we've written about it, about trying to get Evan more involved with this offense, getting in spots where he's comfortable. But it's not just simply like feed the ball to Evan and let him go to work. He's initiating a lot of that offense, right? He's bringing the ball up. We saw a couple of times tonight. He's stepping back and hitting the three. You touched on the floater at the end of the shot clock. I think I even saw like a little step back jumper in the key. I think he missed that shot, but it was like you talk about a guy that's oozing confidence right now. He's kind of the one that pops at the front of my mind. I thought that was a good description of what they were talking about tonight on the ESPN broadcast, of like, it's not necessarily just like feeding Evan in order to get him those touches. Like, he's initiating a lot of this and able to distribute through this too.
Yeah, he's the one with the ball in his hands. He's kind of the maestro out there. Donovan and Darius are consistently in the locker room talking about sprinting to the corners when Evan has the ball in his hands, because they're going to be open out there. And Darius and Donovan, as we know, are some of the best catch shooters in the league historically, and they're doing that right now. And Darius did hit one of those corner threes in a transition opportunity. But with Evan having the ball in his hands, it just gets guys off the ball. And it's not like he's a pick and roll partner only now. It's not like he's just stashed in the dunker spot or a static spacer. He's involved. He's doing a lot of things. Dribble handoffs, finding cutters on bounce passes. Like, Kenny raves about his ability to dish. And that's happening on the fast breaks after he's rebounding and pushing. I sound like a broken record because I feel like I've talked about this so much already this season, but it's because he's consistently doing it. And it's fun to watch development happen right in front of your eyes. And it's only scratching the surface from what I understand. And you're not even talking about the defensive end of the floor when he's the best help defender in the league probably. And he's somebody who switches 1 through 5, just like Jarrett. So, like, good luck scoring on those guys, because they cover they cover so much ground, and they have amazing leaping ability. Like, another thing about Evan that we don't talk about is how quick he is off of his feet. Like, do you see how quick this guy dunks and how quick this guy blocks? Like, it's like he has springs in his feet. Like, what do you do about that? I don't know. I wouldn't want to try him. Just saying, like, if I was playing.
And it's fun to see that development too, because usually when you're talking about teams, they're either in like that win or contend or championship or bust mode, or they're in that like draft and develop and let's see these guys grow mode. And we're kind of seeing both of those mesh here right now with, how this team has been put together. And all of these pieces are really coming together at this time, and they're really looking to take that next step. You touched on Darius and Donovan running to the corners, and specifically in those transitions. This was something I marked down early on, and we didn't get a chance to go to it. But I feel like I'm constantly early on in the season, I'm searching for like the why. Like, why are they shooting the ball so well this season? Why are they, whether it's from three or their shooting percentage from the field. And you touched on the transition threes. I've noticed it tonight. Like, a lot of these are open looks. Like, those are the easiest shots to be able to knock down, and they're finding ways to get their shooters in these positions and knock down these threes.
Especially if they're early in the shot clock. If you've got a good look, put it up. Because at the end of the day, if you miss it, Kenny wants his guys crashing the offensive glass. And what happens if you miss a three? It's usually a long rebound, or it's going to come up short, and the guy's going to tip it back in or get a putback. Like, that, it's not the end of the world if you miss a quick three. But if you start hitting those the way that they have, like the way that Donovan's starting these games, the way that, Darius is starting these games, Dean, if he gets going early, like, that puts teams in a hole if you get off to that kind of start. And, the more you do that, the more it becomes habit, and you're going to want to keep putting them up the way they have. So, I mean, until it doesn't work, keep doing it. But I feel like this is just going to be who they are. They know what their spots are on the floor. And you ask, why are they making the shots and why are they so easy? I think because when you know where the shots are coming from and when the shots are coming, you're just in, that kind of that muscle memory. And it's just kind of second nature to you when you're in your spot and you know where you are on the floor at all times and you know who's going to pass it to you and where they're going to pass it to you. You're going to be able to put up the shots and make them.
Yeah, they use the words connected and selflessness. Those were the two descriptions that they used to describe how they're playing so far. Donovan Mitchell coming out hot. I believe he scored the Cavs' first 7 points. You know that he's going to it seems like he's, another given. You talk about Jarrett Allen being the walking double-double. Donovan coming out. It's good to see him shooting the ball. And as I was working on my notes for the game day report tomorrow, obviously the Cavs taking on the Bucks in Milwaukee at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. We'll touch on that. We'll expand on that here more in a little bit. I almost wrote down it's, a litmus test game here with the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis. And then I look at them and they're 1-4 in the standings. And I'm thinking, well, this isn't our typical Bucks team that we're expecting to see.
Nope. I think it's because a lot of teams are picking on Damian Lillard defensively, really putting him in ball actions. And that's going to kind of be a disadvantage for Milwaukee every time just because Damian's getting older. He's had injuries before. He doesn't have quite the same agility on the defensive end. You know that Giannis is going to be the guy that they're going to key in on. Giannis is the one that they're going to double. They're going to make everybody else beat him. Gary Trent Jr., please beat us. It's going to be one of those things because Chris Middleton's been out. So, who's the third guy that they're kind of getting the ball to? Brook Lopez is good. Bobby Portis off the bench always is a threat. They will be at home, so maybe they do get a little bit more of a jolt from that. But it's just been tough. It's been tough sledding for Milwaukee so far. And you got the rumors flying around now because they're not winning. That's how it always goes. They start losing. Here comes the rumor mill churning about Giannis wanting out and all that good stuff. But, I would never take them lightly per se, but it's definitely not the same vibes that they've had in past years where, they're the same, principles of a championship team.
Yeah, I kind of took the words right out of my mouth there. It's like I keep looking for litmus tests that this team can take, and here's another one with this team. It's not your typical Bucks team. It could be maybe a potential to overlook them because you look at their position in the standings and their record right now, and the Cavs in another back-to-back situation tomorrow night. But I'm fully expecting them to pass that test again. I look ahead at the schedule and I'm like, all right, every game seems like I know it's easy to look through your wine and gold colored glasses right now when you're 6-0, but it's every game is winnable here and are trying to figure out how long this streak can go.
Yeah. And, I don't think it really matters who they're playing because Kenny's talked about how much respect he has for the parity in this. The litmus test, if you wanted to go that direction, because they took on the Knicks on the road on Monday, faced the most adversity they had this entire year, and came back and won at Madison Square Garden. Then you have the Lakers coming in, all the attentions around LeBron James and Bronny getting in there, and they just wiped the floor with them, which was a fully healthy Laker team, by the way, pretty much. And then tonight you face a shorthanded, albeit Magic team, but they were able to kind of fight through that Orlando rugged style. Jalen Suggs was all up in their grill tonight. Mo Wagner plays a very physical game. Gary Harris off the bench, I think, as well, does the same thing. Franz tries to get in your head, and they fought through it. And they, again, stuck to what they knew, stuck to their principles, and got through it. So I feel like this week would have been more of the litmus test than anything that's coming up. They've got the 1-1 with Milwaukee coming up, obviously, on the road tomorrow night, and then obviously on Monday. So, I don't know if there's a bar that they have to meet. Maybe a really fast-paced offensive team like themselves. But other than that, I don't know. I can't think of anything.
Cream of the crop probably in the Eastern Conference. Well, right now it's the Cavaliers. I think
it's the Cavs right now,
right? As when you're the only unbeaten team in the Eastern Conference, you're the cream of the crop. But I think that, not to look too far down the road, but I'm anxious to see maybe what a matchup with the Celtics would look like, because we can dream, right?
Sure. Yes. I would say Boston. Charlotte gave them a fight tonight. I don't know. I didn't see the score or box score or whatever like that, but I know that was a close game. Philadelphia is not healthy, so that's not really a good, fair barometer. You have Miami that, have problems, and Indiana, we know plays an insanely fast pace. That would be a really fun game. But even they're banged up a little bit. So I don't know. I don't know who we're looking for to be the measuring stick. But right now it looks like the Cavs are the measuring stick early.
The Celtics pulling away for an 11-point win over the Hornets tonight, 124-109, 5-1. And a great start that the Celtics are off to, but the Cavaliers won better at 6-0. All right, as we look ahead, we got that matchup. You got the 1-1, as you mentioned, with the Milwaukee Bucks Saturday night on Monday night. Looking ahead, Spence, what do you need to see from this team? What are you hoping to see as we move forward here?
The same thing, just building those habits, having an answer for every run. Being able to sustain the pace that they want to sustain for 4 quarters. And there's not really much. I mean, maybe foul a little less. Like, that's the thing that's plaguing them right now. Be a little bit more careful with the basketball. But, I mean, these are nitpicky type of things that we're talking about. They've been hitting on all cylinders right now. So there's not really much on their end that I'm not liking what I'm seeing. And with Milwaukee, just make sure anybody but Giannis beats you. That's, I think, the strategy they'll employ. And, if Giannis goes off for 40 and Damian Lillard has 20, but the rest of the crew has, a tough time, then so be it. That's the strategy I would employ if I was in charge. But clearly I'm not. I'm here and I'm reporting.
I thought about this on my way home, too, because it's almost like, when you're dealing with a guy like Giannis, for some reason I was thinking about Michael Jordan and I might have been listening to a podcast or a YouTube video about somebody guarding Jordan. And it was like the description of like, you're just looking to not spread the fire. Like if you can keep the fire contained at the garage and save the house, you're going to be good to go. So
True that.
All right, that matchup, 8 p.m. from Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee. We will, of course, have another Cavs post-game show on the YouTube page following that contest. We'll hit you with the game day report in the morning. Spence, any final thoughts that you want to wrap up with here as we give you one last peek at the box score? Cavaliers 6-0 as they look to push it to 7-0 tomorrow night.
Keeping it rolling, man. I believe the 6-0 starts the first time they've done that since the 2016 season, and you know how good those years were. So that's big time. But I mean, collectively, they're doing this as a group right now. This is not just one player. This is not just one star that, everyone talks about. Like, this is a collective effort. Stylistically, it is working. And until other teams figure them out, I don't know what's going to stop them because they are just in some sort of groove right now. So.
Yeah, that best start against 2016-2017, the only other 6-0 start was when they ran out to an 8-0 start back in 1976. A team led by Austin Carr, Jim Chones. They started out 8-0 before they finished 4th in the then Central Division. Hoping for a little longer playoff run out of this group because that group in 1976 was dismissed in the first round. Cavaliers, a 120-109 winner over the Orlando Magic tonight. They are back in action at 8 o'clock tomorrow night in Milwaukee. You can follow along with all of our written content over at si.com/NBA/Cavaliers. And, of course, right here on the YouTube channel with our post-game reports. Enjoy the game tomorrow night, everybody. We'll see you back at center court for tip-off.